From this it follows that there is a chamber also. O God, humble and accept my speech. A chamber in God himself, into which none can enter but the one, the individual, the peculiar man, out of which chamber that man has to bring revelation and strength for his brethren. This is that for which he was made, to reveal the secret things of the Father. By his creation, then, each man is isolated with God. Each, in respect of his peculiar making, can say, "My God." Each can come to him alone and speak with him face to face as a man speaketh with his friend. There is no massing of men with God. When he speaks of gathered men, it is as a spiritual body, not a mass. For in a body, every smallest portion is individual, and therefore capable of forming a part of the body. See now what a significance the symbolism of our text assumes. Each of us is a distinct flower or tree in the spiritual garden of God, precious each for his own sake in the eyes of him who is even now making us. Each of us watered and shone upon and filled with life for the sake of his flower, his completed being, which will blossom out of him at last to the glory and pleasure of the great gardener. For each has within him a secret of the divinity. Each is growing towards the revelation of that secret to himself, and so to the full reception, according to his measure, of the divine. Every moment that he is true to his true self, some new shine of the white stone breaks on his inward eye. Some fresh channel is opened upward for the coming glory of the flower, the conscious offering of his whole being in beauty to the Maker. Each man, then, is in God's sight worth. Life and action, thought and intent are sacred. And what an end lies before us! To have a consciousness of our own ideal being flashed into us from the thought of God. Surely for this may well give way all our paltry self-consciousnesses, our self-admirations, and self-worships. Surely to know what he thinks about us will pell out of our souls all our thoughts about ourselves, and we may well hold them loosely now and be ready to let them go. Towards this result, St. Paul had already drawn near, when he who had begun the race with a bitter cry for deliverance from the body of his death was able to say that he judged his own self no longer. But is there not the worst of all dangers involved in such teaching, the danger of spiritual pride? If there be, are we to refuse the Spirit for fear of the pride? Or is there any other deliverance from pride except the Spirit? Pride springs from supposed success in the high aim. With attainment itself comes humility. But here there is no room for ambition. Ambition is the desire to be above one's neighbor. And here there is no possibility of comparison with one's neighbor. No one knows what the white stone contains, except the man who receives it. Here is room for endless aspiration towards the unseen ideal, none for ambition. Ambition would only be higher than others. Aspiration would be high. Relative worth is not only unknown. To the children of the kingdom, it is unknowable. Each esteems the other better than himself. How shall the rose, the glowing heart of the summer heats, rejoice against the snowdrop, risen with hanging head from the white bosom of the snow? Both are God's thoughts. Both are dear to him. Both are needful to the completeness of his nature and the revelation of himself. God has cared to make me for himself, says the victor with the white stone, and has called me that which I like best. For my own name must be what I would have it, seeing it is myself. What matter whether I be called a grass of the field, or an eagle of the air, a stone to build into his temple, or a Boanerges to wield his thunder? I am his idea, his making, perfect in my kind, yea, perfect in his sight, full of him, revealing him, alone with him. Let him call me what he will. The name shall be precious as my life. I seek no more. Gone, then, will be all anxiety as to what his neighbor may think about him. It is enough that God thinks about him. To be something to God, is not that praise enough? To be a thing that God cares for and would have complete for himself, because it is worth caring for, is not that life enough? Neither will he thus be isolated from his fellows. For that we say of one, we say of all. It is as one that the man has claims amongst his fellows. Each will feel the sacredness and awe of his neighbor's dark and silent speech with his God. Each will regard the other as a prophet, and look to him for what the Lord hath spoken. Each, as a high priest returning from his holy of holies, will bring from his communion some glad tidings, some gospel of truth, which, when spoken, his neighbors shall receive and understand. Each will behold in the other a marvel of revelation, a present son or daughter of the Most High, come forth from him to reveal him afresh. In God, each will draw nigh to each. Yes, there will be danger. Danger is everywhere. But he giveth more grace. And if the man who has striven up the heights should yet fall from them into the deeps, is there not that fire of God, the consuming fire, which burneth and destroyeth not? To no one who has not already had some speech with God, or who has not at least felt some aspiration towards the fount of his being, can all this appear other than foolishness. So be it. But Lord, help them and us, and make our being grow into thy likeness. If through ages of strife and ages of growth, yet let us at last see thy face, and receive the white stone from thy hand. That thus we may grow, give us day by day our daily bread. Fill us with the words that proceed out of thy mouth. Help us to lay up treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt.